Hi, everyone. John Michael Coppola here, and welcome to the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast, where we chat with the actors, directors, choreographers, designers, producers, music directors, lyricists, playwrights, and all the artists who make the Chicago area theaters come alive. We're so excited to have you here with us today. But before we get started, we just want to remind you to please like, subscribe to, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues who you think would appreciate the conversations we're having. We'd be so grateful for your support in this way so we can continue to bring these stories for years to come. Thanks again for being here, and now, curtain up on today's episode. Today's guest was born and raised in suburban Detroit, where he attended the Creative and Performing Arts Magnet program at Churchill High School. Moving on from there, he received his BA in theater performance from Western Michigan University and then his MFA in acting from UC San Diego. He spent 13 years in Los Angeles in guest starring roles in such shows as Modern Family, New Girl, Vegas, and The Young and the Restless, as well as voiceover work on The Mighty Ones and Wolfboy and The Everything Factory. In regional theater, he has been seen at Mason Street Warehouse, South Coast Rep, La Jolla Playhouse, and the Hollywood Bowl. Moving here to Chicago in 2022, he has continued working on stage in such shows as 1776, Frozen, and Fiddler on the Roof, and on TV in such shows as Southside, The Bear, and Chicago Med. He is an outspoken supporter of actor self-advocacy, mental health, and the free local resource for union actors in downtown Chicago called the Coffer Center. We chat about all of this and more on today's episode with my good friend, Joel Gelman. Now let's go to the top of the show. Hi, Joel. How are you, my friend?
JMC.
So good to see you.
So good to see you. Thanks so much for having me. Things are good, man. I so appreciate you having me on. I love what you're doing with this. It's been so great to gain insight into people I know and people I don't know in the community. And, I know Janet fairly well, and watching your interview with her before the Jeffs was just fantastic. So thank you for what you're doing for our lovely community.
Thank you. I'm having a blast doing it.
Good.
Listen, we have a little tradition since you've been listening to the podcast. I always ask people this at the top of the show. Please tell our friends what your first theater experience was.
Okay, so my first theater experience, I did a lot of musical reviews and stuff in early elementary school, singing Up on the Housetop, stuff like that. But in fourth grade, there was a little play called The Tracers of Lost Parts of Speech.
Okay.
In which I was cast. It was all about, it was kind of Schoolhouse Rocky and, teaching kids about nouns and verbs and pronouns. Yeah. So I sort of played the lead detective in that. Okay. There was a song in it called Herb the Verb. It was, Herb the Verb is a man of action. He's busy all the day through.
And you still remember it. Fantastic.
I still remember it. And I partially remember it because then my family sort of latched onto that because my great uncle Herb was a little bit of a shady, lecherous dude. And so then my parents turned it into Herb the Perv is a man.
Oh my God.
My parents really latched onto that. And so that is probably the only song I remember from it. Not even the song I sung.
Family gatherings. Hey, let's sing Herb the Verb.
Hey, let's sing Herb the Verb, everybody. And one and a two. And
I love family stories. It's funny.
Yeah, so that was fourth grade. Was sort of my
fourth grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
My first experience, and I kind of kept going ever since. My brother was also in the theater in high school, middle school and high school, and I watched him in a million shows and was doing my own thing from fourth grade on.
Amazing. So now we're going to roll it back to your humble beginnings of Joel Gelman's life, and tell our listeners where you grew up, your training, and what brought you, even if you want to roll it into what brought you to Chicago, all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in Livonia, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit.
Yeah.
And my high school had a little magnet program called the Creative and Performing Arts Program, CAPA. And so you had to do little auditions, monologues and songs to get in when we were in middle school. And my brother was in this, and it's a pretty amazing little program, it's a public school program, but like, I just, John, we were doing like 6 shows a year.
Wow, that's a lot.
In high school. Yeah. And like directing scenes and all that kind of stuff too. So, I had a lot of theatrical experience, from a pretty early age, and it was amazing. And there were all school musicals and plays too.
Wow.
Then after high school, I went to
Wait a
Western
minute.
Michigan.
Sorry. You did six shows with this so the school was a theater school, or was it a section of the school that was focused
It was a public
arts?
school that had a magnet program, yes, and it was focused on this. But then there were also all school musicals.
In addition to the 6
a year. In addition to the 6.
Wow.
And I was in show choir my last 2 years too. So
wow.
I just never I was there from 6 a.m. to 11, 5, sometimes 6 days a week.
Wow.
Because we would be rehearsing for plays on Saturdays. Yeah, it was amazing. And really, really excellent teachers that had been professionals. Stephen Kaczynski and Gail Mack were sort of the leaders of the program at the time. And yeah, it was amazing. Like, I treasure it.
Wow.
And then I went to Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo. Was a musical theater major there for a while, and then I sort of switched to performance because I just really wanted to focus on acting more, as I kind of got through my and I am, as I'm sure you remember, not a quick study in the dance department, John. I'm sure you remember how slow I was.
No.
So yeah, I just so I switched my last like year and a half to being a performance major, and then I wanted to keep that going, and so I auditioned for grad schools, and I went to University of California, San Diego, and got my MFA in acting, which was also a really amazing experience and kicked my butt in a very unique way. There's a lot of people who have traumatic grad school experiences. That was not the case for me. It was a really lovely family-like experience, and it just I think solidified sort of my process and really opened my eyes to new forms of theater, and it was great. And then I spent 13 years in LA.
Okay.
After grad school, I moved to LA. Never expected to move there, but it just I had not really done any film and TV stuff, and I felt like I wanted to figure that out. I think as a working actor, like, my mentality was like, I don't care about fame in any capacity. I just want to be a working actor, and I felt like I needed to learn how to do that. And so that was ultimately why I moved to old Los Angeles.
Yeah. Of course, proximity to schooling too. I mean, it was close enough.
Yeah, it was an easier move, for sure. And just sort of, we did a showcase, and the attention, I got some stuff in New York too, but it just felt like the right move. Yeah.
And then what brought you to Chicago?
What brought me to Chicago was sort of a variety of reasons, but mainly because Melissa Pryor, my wife, got this job. So let me backtrack a little bit. She worked in casting in Chicago. She worked at PR. When we left Western, we met at Western Michigan. She moved to Chicago. I went to grad school. We did long distance for almost 4 years. Okay. And then she moved to LA, was in casting out there for a long time, and then she sort of left casting and was doing acting coaching, and then a Chicago colleague sort of contacted her and was like, it was like 2021, and things were, as we all remember,
yes,
very slow. This colleague was like, hey, do you have any interest in like relocating? I'm going to a job at SAG-AFTRA, and this nonprofit, the Coffer Center, needs a new executive director, and I thought of you. Were the first person I thought of. And Melissa researched the job, and we talked about it, and we had some family health stuff happening in Michigan at the time too, and it just felt like the right move for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that was sort of the impetus, was Melissa getting this job.
I hear those stories a lot where it also happens to sort of align with a health situation where you need to be closer to that family member.
Yes.
And then people's lives people's lives though tend to flourish when they sort of have to be relocated due to an external situation like that. So it's sort of remarkable. It was Chicago's gain to have you here in 2021. You're still here.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that that's what brought you here, because that's always a difficult thing to navigate.
That's life, baby. That's life.
Yeah. But I'm glad that we have you here, and we got to meet, and I know that, and we're going to talk about the Calvert Center some more in a bit. You talked about your process that you learned about when you were in your MFA program. I'd like to know a little bit more about what types of tools you have and what I like to call the actor's toolbox when you're developing a character, or if you're doing like a couple days on a TV show. Like I know you did guest star role on Modern Family and some other shows like that. So I'm just curious what types of things you like to draw from.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the theater goes, like initially, like right when I get an audition, I try and just read. I always read the play as much as I can, and I just feel like each new read, and then especially when I book a thing, each new read just uncovers so many little intricacies, subtleties within, your character. I think also for like something like 1776 or Titanic, where I played actual historical human beings, really just tried to dig deep, did a bunch of research, read books about Charles Lightoller, who was an incredible human, and did a bunch of research on John Hancock, and just tried to, find some way in how I related to them as humans. And then I mean, I have a very, then I, kind of get into given circumstances and actions and motivations, and try and write some initial stuff down. That usually always shifts a bit when we get into the rehearsal room.
Yeah.
And then, I do, before every show, I do a sort of a Kristen Linklater warm up, and then do some like proper voice. If it's a musical, do some proper voice warm up stuff too.
Can you explain what the Kristen Linklater warm up is? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's Linklater technique is all just about finding the sound in different parts of your body, placement, finding like where your resonance centers are, like deep down here, it's the zoo, whoa, and then kind of moving up your body to find those vocal placements. And then, I do a lot of absurd articulation exercises. Usually I end with some Ron Burgundy, the skeleton used too much shampoo in the shower. And the human torch was denied a bank loan. Just to like loosen it up.
That's so genius. I love that.
And one of my friends in grad school started going, Paul Blart Mall Cop. Paul Blart Mall Cop. So I do that. And then I invented one that's a black hat hacker named Hathaway, helmed by Hemsworth.
Wow. When I was growing up, it was rugged rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I like yours better, though. Those are much more fun to say.
Yeah, I do some legit ones, I mean, which are all silly anyway, but then I have to do some dumb, fun ones towards the end.
When you do a guest starring role on TV, and it's such a short scene. Modern Family, of course, was comedy. You're seeing it. You were kind of like the straight guy, but the straight guy as opposed to the comic relief guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, how do you prepare for something like that? Obviously, you got a couple of lines, but your character it's not a fully fleshed out character. How do you prepare for that and make it convincing and engaging for the final cut, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. I mean, I talk about this all the time. I think the co-star things are truly like one of the hardest jobs in our business. And I think there's a lot of people who would agree with me, because you're walking into typically, no pun intended with Modern Family, but you're walking into an established like show family, right? And you have to come on, you have to like be prepped, you have to hit your marks. You have to, just do your job without any foibles. You really have to try and do that because it's a well-oiled machine. So I try and do a lot of meditating before or like some breathing exercises just to calm myself. And just run it a million times. I think it's always helpful to work on it with a few other people too, just to get different perspectives on how you think that line will be, and of course, like watch the show you're going to be on.
Sure.
Watch the show, be familiar with the people who are in your scene. Try and be familiar with the filmmakers and their style. And then, really drill. And when you get there, like just listening and not being afraid to ask questions. I think early on, I was very afraid to ask questions because I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But then you kind of bump into, things that you just don't know, terminology you don't know, shorthand. And I think you really have to like, not be afraid to say, hey, I'm here too. And, not as a diva, but like, just feel like you can, if you don't know something, ask the questions. People are going to assume you know what you're doing otherwise. And if you don't, you're going to potentially ruin a take or, not hit your mark or, so just really like take in the environment, talk to your fellow actors who are there too, if you're able to, try and get some camaraderie going if you've never met, and then suddenly someone's playing your wife that you've spent all of 3 minutes with, it's such a different thing from theater. But I think I try and use some of the same, techniques as far as preparation goes as much as I can for those little things.
Those are all really helpful. I've never done a guest starring role on TV. Hopefully someday.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm only back in business for less than a year now.
Sure.
But I tend to wonder, oh God, if I ever got that kind of gig, like I'm going to be nervous out of my boots. So it's nice to know that there is a bit of grace that they give you, knowing if it's your first thing, if you just ask questions that are smart questions and not be a pain in the butt about it all.
Yeah,
they'll
just in service,
just
totally in service of the scene. Totally in service of the production and the scene and. And also like if you can coach, like if you're feeling nervous, like go to the Coffer Center and, coach that scene before you go in, talk about your anxieties. I think it just whatever we can do to sort of eliminate all those unknown unknowns, known unknowns. I think is so important.
I wanted to quick story that popped up. You were talking about, watch the show, make sure you know the people you're going to be doing a scene with. I was at an audition years ago, and they were auditioning for the show Blue's Clues. And this was when Steve was leaving the show. They were hiring Steve's little brother to take over. And there's a room full of guys, and this one guy gets called in the room to do his thing. He comes back in. He just kind of picks up his bag, and as he walks out, he turns to everybody and goes, by the way, in case nobody knows, Blue is a dog. And people were like, what did you think it was? He goes, I thought he was a bird. He had never seen the show. And I'm like, dude, first of all, it's one of the biggest kids shows out on TV right now. How do you go to an audition and not at least research the show you're auditioning for? If it was like an obscure piece, I get it, but it was literally in syndication.
It was huge.
Oh my God.
The biggest thing in the world. Blue is everywhere. Forget that story.
But yes, prepare, ladies and gentlemen. Do your research.
Do your research and read the material. Always.
Back into my brain when you made that suggestion.
That's so funny. My gosh.
Any performances that you've either been a part of or that you have witnessed that really to this day stay with you?
I think as far as like things I've seen, I saw original Broadway production of Take Me Out, which was incredible.
Yeah, that was great.
I was supposed to see Urinetown, but my first trip to New York City, we got there. We had tickets to Urinetown. We saw Millie the day we got in, and then the musicians went on strike, and Broadway basically closed.
Uh-huh.
And other than all the musicals closed, so we did not get to see her in town, and
Oh, man.
rushed to TKTS and got some tickets to take me out, and it was redemption, to at least be able to see an incredible thing,
Yeah.
Dennis O'Hare,
Phenomenal.
and another thing, I saw Jeffrey Rush and Susan Sarandon and Lauren Ambrose in Exit the King.
Oh my gosh.
And Jeffrey Rush just did this, dude, this such an incredible, free, clown, heartbreaking performance. I've never seen anything like it. It was an astonishing performance. Just
God,
totally mind-blowing.
I can't even imagine. What has happened? I haven't heard his name in years.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm gonna have
what's
to go
going on.
research that after our favorite.
I don't know if he just retired and was done with the biz, or I feel like I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah,
I believe he's still with us, but I don't.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out.
And I was. It was also such a pleasant surprise because sometimes the film and TV folks don't necessarily translate to the theater, and my God, he was he was incredible.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, shows that I've been in. I did a production of Pericles in grad school, directed by the great Romanian director Andrei Belgrader, who is no longer with us. He's also in Big Night. Do you know the movie Big Night?
I only know it because I watched Stanley Tucci. He mentions it in his Italy tour,
in his Italy
food tour, and I read his book too. So I only know it because of that, but I've never seen it. No, but
it's great. It is just a great movie. Prepare yourself an Italian meal before or after because you're going to be hungry because there's just so much. But yeah, Andre was in that, and he was an incredible theater director too. And just a really a supreme character, would drive the stage managers nuts because he would just be like, all right, I think we got that scene now. I'm going to go smoke. And they'd be like, but it's not time for a 15-minute break. And he'd be like, it's fine. I will go smoke. And go out to the back. Then we got into the theater and he was just out the theater door, just smoking cigs, and watching us from the sidelines, giving us direction. But also just such an incredible, such a great character, but such a thoughtful actor's director in so many ways. And I've got to play 5 different characters, which is, I love doing, in a singular thing. That's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And then the other quite memorable experience was I did Les Mis at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, yes. You mentioned that in your intake form. Remind me, who was that the one that John Lloyd Young was part of? He was Marius?
John Lloyd Young, Leah Michele, Brian Stokes Mitchell, Ruth Williamson, Melora Hardin. It was just an incredible experience. And
were you in the ensemble?
I was in the ensemble. Yeah, I played Kofarak and was in the ensemble.
So great. What an experience. I can imagine.
It was incredible. And dude, when you're on that stage and you look up, you're like, there's the audience, there's the audience, there's the audience. You're literally looking up like this from the stage and you're still seeing.
How many people does that seat?
I don't know, but that's one of the things I always say, and I said right after, I will never perform in a space this big. Now I kind of want to look how many it seats. It's 17,500 seats.
Wow. That's way more than I thought you would say.
Yeah. 17,500. I will never perform for that many people in my life again, unless I went to the bowl.
Thanks for looking that up, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had to know. So then a couple years later, they were doing, all the people in Les Mis were performing and they needed some ensemble members. So they made some calls. I got a call from my agent and they're like, hey, they want 5 people from LA, and they looked at your headshot and resume and they basically want you to just come and be in the ensemble on the Oscars. So Fantastic. Then I got to, we rehearsed for, 3 days. And then I went to the Oscars and performed, and met Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe, and
It's so funny. We've talked about now about Jeffrey Rush and the movie of Les Mis, because there's a non-musical version of the
yes,
movie
of course,
Les Mis
yes,
with
that
Jeffrey Rush playing
right,
Javert.
of course,
It's come
playing
full
Javert.
circle now in our podcast.
Yeah, look at that, look at that.
It's actually a really good
it.
movie. I really enjoyed it. So listen, you've mentioned now the Calfer Center a couple times. I want to tell our listeners what that is, because I certainly didn't know what it was. You brought it to my attention, and it's such an incredible resource that only you can explain, because I am just learning about it myself. So please do tell us what it is.
Yeah, so the Calfer Resource Center is a nonprofit for union performers here in Chicago. It's right next door to SAG. It's its own entity, but it is, it's somewhat funded through SAG, and then it's funded through donations and grants, and it's there's a taping room, there's a voiceover booth with Source Connect. There's conference rooms. People do readings there. And my wife, Melissa Pryor, who is let me toot her horn. She's she's an Emmy Award winning former casting associate, won an Emmy for Big Little Lies, and an Artios Award. And she's the executive director. And so she also coaches people. She does, career consultations. If you want to bring your headshots to her, she'll coach you on anything from, musical theater to a small co-star. And it's free for union performers. It's totally free for union performers.
Either SAG-AFTRA or Equity, or
SAG-AFTRA, Equity, AGMA. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So great.
Yeah, and it's it's quite well located, 10 East Erie, and it's just, there's nothing. I mean, I will tell you that there's definitely nothing like it in LA. Like, you can go to SAG and like rent out a room,
right?
And I think you can do that at Equity, you can do that at Equity in New York, but you're not like, you don't have someone who has like an incredible wealth of knowledge in the industry who's there to like guide you, coach you.
Yeah.
I mean, she's also, she studied acting. She's also like, she's not, and this is throwing no shade to any casting director or assistant or associate, but sometimes you walk in and they're not an actor and you're not kind of getting what you need from them. And she's an excellent acting partner too.
Lucky you.
And yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky, dude. I just encourage everyone to check it out. It's just such an amazing underutilized resource in our city, and I truly believe there's nothing like it in the country.
I was shocked to learn about it only because you mentioned it. I mean, the fact that Equity doesn't talk about it, it's not on the Equity website. I mean, at least I don't think. I didn't investigate after you told me about it.
I think so.
But like, it's literally an amazing free resource with all these bells and whistles people can use for free. That why don't people know about it? It makes me a little, I'm not gonna say a little angry. I mean, not that the Calfer Center's not doing their thing to toot their horn, but like, Equity should be one of the biggest cheerleaders for it.
I think so. I think it's, I don't know if there's a conflict of promoting something like that outside of their purview, but I think that also, like, as actors, right, like, how many times people are always trying to get our money for coaching, and sometimes it's totally worth it. No shade, however you get coaching too, like,
right.
Get coached. Like, that is one of I am such an advocate for that too. I think just to have that outside eye to kind of like make sure that what you're doing is coming through the way you want it to, if you're less experienced in one area, and just to feel at ease going into a room or putting yourself on tape is huge. It's so important. And I think, there's so many avenues where people are trying to take actors workshops and,
right.
this and that. And, I mean, there was a whole blow up in LA about these casting director workshops where people were just,
pay to play, right?
Yeah, pay to play, taking people's money. And I think that's okay sometimes, but there's, there are also shady agents who are like, you got to pay, So to have this resource that, if you're a union member, you can just utilize it is amazing.
Now that you talk about that, she reviews headshots. I got my headshots
Yeah.
done last year. They're fine. I got some good shots out of it, but I don't know that they're the ones that I want to be using for like getting representation for. Thankfully, I got an agent with doing On Your Feet. Grateful for them.
Yeah. Great.
But I'm like, I don't love my shots. I don't love the ones that I would use for like a TV, submission. So I think I'm going to reach out to her and just have her go through the ones that I'm using and say, yeah, this one could be a bit more like, I feel like there's just like not a whole lot behind my eyes in some of them, but they were the ones that really were like the best that came out of it. No shade to the photographer that I used. I just, the ones that he liked, I didn't like. And so, so I'm really personally grateful to know about the resource, because my agents are like, oh no, they're good. They're good. And I don't think they're lying to me. I want another outside eye to say, these could be better, and here's how.
Or also like, this is good for this, but maybe you go and get, she was talking to me yesterday about an actor who, booked something recently, and she has very polished headshots, but the thing she booked was like a very crass, a very crass like character woman. And Melissa was like, you should get some shots that show that. Mm-hmm. And also casting is going to, who has known her for years and years is going to be like, oh, look at her, what, and then bring her in for something that she already knows she can do, because she's booked a job. And we'll continue. It's about finding those things and like the things you want to do. Are you marketing yourself right in that way? Do your headshots present that?
That's exactly it for me. Because even with the agents that I have, they brought me on and they said, we're excited to add you to the roster, because I'm not SAG or after, I am equity, but they said we don't have a lot of guys in your age demographic who are non-union. So I'm like, great.
Dude. Yeah.
But I haven't had too many opportunities to submit anything, because they haven't sent anything, like 2 things in the last, which is, again, no shade to them. It is what it is.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen too.
But I do feel like if I had better shots, that maybe a cast director will go, oh, wow, we've never seen this guy before. What a great shot. Let's bring him in. So again, from a personal level, I'm so grateful that you brought this to my attention.
Oh my gosh, of course. I am trying to be the biggest cheerleader, because it's just kind of a mind-blowing thing.
You are a big cheerleader, not just for your wife and of others, but you also want to bring up, you're a big believer in actor self-advocacy and mental health. And I'd like for you to tell our listeners why you're so passionate about those 2 things as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, full disclosure, like, I have a good amount of anxiety. I've been in therapy for 5 years just to maintain. I'm proudly on antidepressants. And I think, the whole way along our process, we are also often in a vacuum, right? It's just us. Mm-hmm. And I think really beginning to like clock the ways, like from the minute that you get an email from your agents that you have an audition, like how does that feel in your body, right? How what does that make you feel? Are you excited about it? Is it filling you with dread? And like just really clocking those things, and also like embracing that and figuring out what specific work you need to do mentally, and preparation wise, so you can feel good about what you're doing. Engaging in meditation, engaging in compassionate gesture, like if you're in a situation or before, like find that part of your body that you feel like you can sort of get in touch with and be kind to yourself. I think I have often in the past, I was, very much like, I screwed it up, like just really like down on myself, and all that tends to do is breed more insecurity, and that's kind of, death for us for an audition, So I think, whatever mental health resources are available to you, and also just being kind to yourself. I think also the power of saying no. You know, if something truly fills you with dread, or just you're like, I can't imagine myself doing this show for 4 months. And sometimes that's a financial decision, but if it's not, and you're just like, well, I have to work, I think you should I think it's important to reassess, you know, like, and feel like you can say no, and know that's not going to be your last job. It's not going to be, you know.
Yeah.
It's so easy for us also when we don't have auditions, and to spin our wheels and think I'm never going to work again. But like ultimately you are, and finding those things and finding creative projects in those times where you're not auditioning as much, you know, that you can occupy your time, or some specific hobby, gardening, or something that is not involved in the theater or film and TV world is so important too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Talking to each other.
Yes. Why do you think I started a podcast? So I can have,
baby. Exactly.
This is like therapy to me, baby.
Yeah, that's why it's so important, because I think, you know, even early on in a process, you know, like if you're feeling a certain way about a director, you know, that maybe you feel like you're not getting something from them, or you feel like they don't like you, or they don't like what you're doing, talk to each other, man. Like, I think there have been processes like that for me, and you know, then you discover, you know, during previews that 3 other people feel the exact same, you know, 3 to 8 other people feel the exact same way you did, you know? And you've just been spinning your wheels about it. And it's not about like shit talking. It's just about like, oh, how do we figure this puzzle out? How do we, you know, and also just knowing like other people feel that way is such a relief. I think you're not alone, and we're not alone, even though so much of our preparation and initial work and you know, audition experiences is kind of being alone. But if you cannot do that, if you can find somebody to, you know, read with or coach you too, that's a pal that is also a free resource, you know, and you can do that for each other, that's also huge too. And I think just instills confidence and calm.
Thank you so much for all those thoughts and ideas around all those 2 topics. In fact, August is going to be National Wellness Month, and we're going to do the entire month. On every episode that month is going to be a different form of wellness for really anybody, but of course this is a Theater Makers podcast. We're going to do one week, not necessarily in this order, but we're going to do 1 week about physical wellness, 1 week about financial wellness, 1 week about vocal wellness, and 1 week about mental health wellness. So
John,
I'm excited to bring that series in August. So I thank you for sharing all of that experience and your own personal experience as well. It's very vulnerable for people to come on here and share their
I think, I mean, it's that's one thing we need to talk about our grief. We need to talk about our mental health. I think the more that it's normalized, you know, the better everyone is.
I agree.
The better off everyone is, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Where can our friends find you online if they wanted to follow you on the socials?
I am basically just on Instagram. JJ Geltown's the handle.
JJ Geltown. Yeah.
JJ Geltown.
I love it.
That's basically it. I mean, I'm on like IMDb, and you know, you can go if you want to go watch my stupid animation reel or my
Yeah, we do. We are gonna put your link to your social media handle in our show notes, as well as the website for the Calfer Center, because I think I really want to try and get the word out there about that. That's huge. That's huge, and I can't wait to use the resource myself. So tell your wife. End of May, beginning of June, I'm going to reach out to your wife.
And also, she also does Zoom coaching. So if you're in a spot and you need, you know, she'll tape you via Zoom too.
Fantastic.
You can book either online or in-person appointments for all that stuff.
My friend, thank you so much for joining me here. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for having me, John. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for joining us at the Chicago Theater Makers Podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Chicago Theater Makers Podcast is a production of Spirit Art LLC, and our podcast theme music is by Paul Langford. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, please drop us a note at our website, ChiTheaterMakersPodcast.com. That's ChiTheater, makers with an S, podcast.com. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us as much as we enjoyed spending it with you, and we'll see you on the board soon.